the North Dakota governor, former presidential candidate, close confidant, and working on the phones and everything else on behalf of Donald Trump. He's backing him big time. Governor, good to have you back.
Great to be with you, Neil.
Well, the former president does raise a legitimate point. All this time in the court keeps him off the campaign trail. I know you're trying to help and others to get the word out, to get his word out. But do you think he's at a disadvantage there?
Well, thankfully, Neil, 2 out of 3 Americans understand this is a sham trial, and you're just talking about jury selection. Based on Alvin Bragg, what comments he made when he was running as a politician for the office he's in, and based on the judge's campaign contributions, neither of those 2 could be seated to be on the jury because they would be disqualified because of their conflict. So I think every American knows that President Trump can't get a fair trial in New York.
You know, in the meantime, Joe Biden is busy. He's gone to Pennsylvania again and again and again. I believe 20 trips over just the past 6 weeks. Having said all of that, he is narrowing some of those numbers for himself, and he hopes to be centered during these next 5-6 weeks of this presumed trial, hitting one battleground after another. How does the former president make up that ground if it begins to gain traction?
Well, Biden's game plan on the campaign is lawfare. It's keep President Trump trapped in court. I mean, there are examples where President Trump goes out, visits a bodega, gets a hero's welcome, and Joe Biden walks into a gas station and hardly anyone notices. So I think President Trump's making the best of a very bad, very unfair situation. But the real thing going on is the Biden administration wants America talking about this trial because they don't want to be talking about Joe Biden's horrific policies. And look at where we're at. If this trial wasn't going on, you and I would be talking about what's going on between Iran and Israel. I mean, the United States, we're in a proxy war with Iran. They've launched unprecedented number of missile attacks at Israel. And now our own State Department's trying to pressure them into a 2-state solution while they're under attack on 2 fronts. I mean, at any other time, America would be trying to figure out where in the world did we stop being an ally to Israel. But Joe Biden's weakness, beginning with the withdrawal from Afghanistan and everything he's doing now to pressure Israel and on behalf of the terrorists, on behalf of Hamas, I think America needs to see through that, but they're hoping that no one's paying attention because of what they're doing with the lawfare.
But, you know, you argued very much more in defense of Israel than anything we've heard from Donald Trump. I don't mean to besmirch him or raise your profile in that, but a lot of people are kind of wondering, are you unequivocally with Israel, Mr. President, that is Donald Trump, or are you not? He's been very, critical of the administration's approach to this, that this would never happen under him. But he's, also, blamed Israel for a lot of failures on this. So I don't know if he is unequivocally with them, just as a lot of our NATO allies don't know if he's unequivocally with Ukraine or with bad guys trying to take down Ukraine. So are you worried that the president, maybe this isn't his intention, but he's sending a message that's very different from the one you just said?
Well, I think when I've been with him and what I've heard him say on the campaign trail is that nobody's stronger for Israel than President Trump. And if it's the competition is between he and Biden, then it's no question at all in terms of who is standing with and who is supporting Israel. And take a look at how you support Israel.
But he also told Israel to wrap it up, right, to get this done. And I guess Israel is trying to wrap it up, but it's proving a devil to get done. So he's impatient, it seems, with Israel.
Well, President Trump was strong in supporting Israel because he was strong in going after Iran. When he was in office, he had Iran on its knees financially. I mean, their oil production was down, their reserves were down. Joe Biden comes in. Here's $6 billion Iran for 5 hostages. Here's $10 billion in released assets. Oh, we're going to take your oil sanctions off. Iran's oil production is up by 50%. So
on those issues you argue, he's been very clear. They're very good examples you raised there. So there's no reason we have to doubt that he's not 100% with Israel.
Well, I have no reason to, and part of it, he understands that Israel's problem is that Iran's the world's largest funder of terrorism, and Joe Biden's got an obsession of supporting Iran on every front. I mean, they make excuses for him. They're like, Iran attacks Israel, and Joe Biden basically says to Israel, don't retaliate. I mean, what other ally would we say that to? What's the obsession with Iran?
Governor, thank you very much. We'll explore this more. Good having you. Doug Burgum, the North Dakota